Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, more from our coverage of Modern Day Marine 2025. The Corps is looking for a new advanced reconnaissance vehicle. We pay a visit to the competitors to see what's on offer. And who's driving that huge truck with missiles on it? Well, nobody. We take a look at an autonomous logistics platform from Oshkosh. Coming to you from the nation's capital, it's the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. At Modern Day Marine 2025, two competitors looking to fill the Marines' need for an updated reconnaissance vehicle had their offerings on display. We checked out both. First up, Textron's Cottonmouth.
We're at the Textron Systems booth here at Modern Day Marine to look at the Advanced Reconnaissance Vehicle. David, can you tell me a little bit about what we're looking at behind us?
Sure, this is our second prototype vehicle. The Marines are testing this vehicle right now. This is the Command, Control, Communications, and Cyber UAS variant. They call it the C4 UAS variant. It's a very challenging prototype with the integration of all of this computer equipment, all that has to be shielded from each other in an EMI, EMC safe environment. But the Marines have been testing this over the last year and a half or so. And we are in the throes now of producing the second prototype within the Mobile Reconnaissance Battalion. That's the 30mm variant.
So these two variants, obviously do have different kinds of missions. Can you tell us about what each one would be doing once fielded?
So the Marines refer to this one as the battlefield quarterback. It is in the Mobile Reconnaissance Battalion. This will be the dissemination of information and the taking of information. Satellite communications back to higher headquarters, back to the ship, but really networking all of the vehicles together within the Mobile Reconnaissance Battalion. The 30mm is a kind of an infantry fighting variant within the family, and the Marines anticipate having a family of vehicles, each having a different mission purpose or mission scenario, and all really taking advantage of a common architecture, a modular open system architecture, common chassis or hull, common suspension, common power pack, to be able to ease in the logistics.
Can you talk a little bit about the development now? Now, Textron Systems has done a little bit of this work on their own. I mean, you guys were kind of leading on this in terms of the development. Tell us about what Textron's been doing to develop this vehicle.
So early on, to be able to validate ourselves, to be able to go win that initial phase to build this prototype, on our own funding, we built our own, what we call an alpha prototype. We took that out to Nevada Automotive Test Center, again on our own funding, to make sure that it was durable, it was reliable. We put several thousand miles on it to be able to know that when we built this one for the Marines, it will have been run through the same test protocol, the same evaluations that the Marines ran with this vehicle, and it just gave us a sense of confidence that we could go into this phase of the program having already built a prototype.
The Marines have had a chance to kind of kick the tires on this and run a little bit, and as you said, in their testing. And what kind of feedback have you gotten so far from the Marine Corps that you can talk about?
Well, first, we've got a great relationship with our Program Management Office, PMLAV office, as well as the PEO land systems within the Marines. They have been completely open and honest with us in terms of what they want, in terms of feedback. We've had multiple soldier touch points on this vehicle, maintenance demonstrations, and we take that feedback and we incorporate it into that next prototype vehicle. We incorporate it backwards into this vehicle, just making sure that this vehicle is easy to use, it's easy to maintain, it's easy to operate, and that's really what we've been focused on with this. And
I know that they're looking at this more. In fact, I had someone tell me recently they wish they wouldn't have called it the Advanced Reconnaissance Vehicle. They wanted to call it the Advanced Reconnaissance System, because of all the different things that work with it. So what are some of the complications you have to work with when you think about adding all these systems to this whole?
I would tell you that Textron Systems has been integrating into systems for over 4 decades. We do unmanned aircraft systems. We do robotic combat systems for the Army, and so it's no surprise to me that this is not a vehicle and it should be referred to as a system or a system of systems. And it's really about integrating capability into a durable, reliable automotive system, a survivable automotive system. We've also, on our own investment, we've taken this out and blast tested it. Not the vehicle, but the hull itself, to make sure that before we produce a lot of them, it's survivable, and its soldiers inside are survivable. And so beyond that, it's really coming into a modular open system architecture. I can't emphasize that enough, that doing that hard work up front for an architecture that's going to be common across the family of vehicles, and then delivering to the Marines a systems integration lab that enables them not to have the vendor lock, not to have to come back to us every time they want to iterate on the design. They have their own system integration lab, or a simulation where they can take a component out, put a different component in, or they can say, hey, I really want to do this with this vehicle or the next variant, and I want to put this system into the architecture. I don't have to get it from you. You don't have to get it from you. You go select it, put it in, and you see how it operates within the architecture of this system. And that's another thing that the Marines have looked out ahead, and the growth capacity of this vehicle, and owning a systems integration lab that is specific to this architecture enables them to not have to come back to us to do that.
That gives you a lot of different options, especially for a vehicle who could be in service for decades if adopted into field.
Another thing that we're doing in these systems is building growth capacity into them, not just in size, weight, and power, in weight. We also know from unmanned aircraft systems that it never gets lighter. You know, they want to do more, they figure out how to do it, and they want to integrate more capability into the system. So we have to build weight capacity into the system, weight growth into the system. What the Marines want, they want ease of transport of this vehicle. They want for them to go on a ship-to-shore connector. We just happen to be the prime contractor for the ship-to-shore connector. So we've already put these systems and figured out how they would be transported on board a ship-to-shore connector. And so the Marines are thinking through all of this. Growth, what do they want to do in 10 years with it? How do they iterate on it on their own without having to come back to the vendor to do that, the whole modular open system architecture, and they're thinking through what that family is going to look like.
Now, I know this is replacing a system that's been around for decades. Were you guys able to learn anything from the employment and operation and use of the light armored vehicle that's basically been in service since the 1980s?
We have. This vehicle is required to swim, and that's difficult. I would say it's a training challenge above most. I mean, entering a surf zone from the land, going out through the surf zone into the open water, and then coming back through the surf zone is challenging. We were out at Pendleton swimming this vehicle as well, and figuring out how to train it and how to make it easier to operate once you're in the water. That's one of the things we learned from LAV, and we learned from ACV, the amphibious combat vehicle, the challenges associated with swimming a vehicle. The family of the light armored vehicle 25s, I would say it's still up to the Marines as to the different variants that they're going to have. So they're probably learning more from what the 21st century battlefield, particularly in the areas in which the Marines operate, in the littorals, they're going to be learning as to what was working with the LAV-25 and what do they perhaps want to do better with this system.
It's replacing that, but also adding a lot more that vehicle never had to do.
Much more computing capability.
Well, I'm just curious to see, what do you think are the next steps on this? Obviously, you have competition. It's not just Textron. What do you think is next in development as far as operational testing or even potential contracts and fielding?
Well, from our standpoint, we're just going to hit our marks. We're gonna execute the contracts that we have right now. We're going to deliver a systems integration lab later in May, followed by a Marine Corps demonstration. We're building the 30mm prototype now. We're going to deliver that to the Marines in September, and they're going to go do move and shoot. They're going to go do the live fire testing. We're also going to take that variant out on our own to automotive test, to durability test, to make sure that the different vehicle dynamics, the different center of gravities with that vehicle, want to make sure that it behaves the same in terms of the suspension and the drivetrain and the power, the propulsion system. So that's what we're going to be doing for the remainder of this year. And we also look forward to the competition that's in front of us For the next phase of this program, we anticipate kicking off in 2026, which is the EMD phase.
Well, thanks so much for walking us through the development here. Good luck with all your next steps on this. A lot of moving parts, a lot of work to be done. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When we come back, a look at the competition. We head over to General Dynamics Land Systems for a look at their version of the ARV. Don't go away. In the race to become the Marines' new go-to recon vehicle, General Dynamics Land Systems brought their model to modern-day Marine. We caught up with them to learn about what it can do.
So we're at the General Dynamics Land Systems booth at Modern Day Marine to look at the Advanced Reconnaissance Vehicle. Steve, can you tell me a little bit about what I'm looking at behind me?
Yeah, this is our third generation ARV demonstrator vehicle that we've made. We've been working on this program since about 2017. This is our advanced bespoke designed vehicle for the Marine Corps environment. It's an 8-wheeled vehicle with a high-tech suspension and a very robust swimming capability. The vehicle has been designed for maintainability in mind. You can change a tire without even getting a jack underneath it using the height management system on it. You can remove and replace a power pack within 45 minutes on the vehicle in the field, so it's very user-friendly. This particular prototype is our C4 UAS prototype, so it's a command and control variant that also has an ability to have a UAS that can go a long distance from the vehicle and bring that sensor feedback in. The C5 capability on this vehicle is modular and scalable, and so it works today and it will accommodate any future needs for the Marines in the future.
Well, no, this command variant is probably the most complicated version of what the Marine Corps wants, for good reason. But there are also maybe some other variants that they may want, or at least ones that they've already decided on. Could you talk about other ways that you might have to adapt this vehicle?
Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. The command and control variant is the most complicated, but what we've taken in mind in the design is to try to make sure commonality is an important aspect across the whole family of vehicles. Currently, we're actually building the 30 mil turret variant of the ARV family. The majority of the vehicle is common between them. We just have different seating set up in the background, but the actual core architecture of the vehicle is the same. There's also a logistics variant that will be coming up shortly. We've got a design for that one. And the 3 remaining variants that the Marine Corps are looking for are the organic precision fires variant, which uses loitering munitions, and there's a recovery variant with a crane and a winch, and then also a counter UAS variant, which is important in today's battle environment. So,
what's important about knowing how each of these are going to have to be configured differently? Obviously, they have different mission sets, but there's important reasons why you can't put certain things on certain parts of the vehicle, right? I mean, it's basically, there's a lot of planning that goes involved.
Oh, absolutely. As you can see on this variant, for example, we have an extensive amount of comms and radio transmission on here. So we have to make sure from counter UAS systems to the radio systems that we have effective capability for each individual system while not drowning out each other. So you have to make sure you understand what those capabilities are so that we can position those on vehicle and be able to control them within the vehicle, depending if you have any failures that the crew on site can easily adapt and go from there. One of the things from a commonality side across all the variants that we've been looking at is, as I mentioned, commonality. So the driver station, vehicle commander station, and then in the different variants, we're trying to maintain the same user experience with the workstations in all the variants. So if you're trained on one variant, you can flip into the other one and it's not a new training scenario. We also have been working closely on the maintainability side of the vehicle, and you'll see later in terms of our digital training system where you can actually do training off vehicle, and so that once you actually get in the vehicle, you're ready to go.
Combining the virtual and the real.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that before you actually step foot in the vehicle, you already have a very good understanding of how to use the station, whether it's a driver, whether it's a vehicle commander or UAS operator in the back. You already have that feel. So then the training timeline is much expedited.
You talked about testing, operational testing by the Marine Corps and kind of what they're doing and the feedback they provided. Could you tell us, what does that testing look like and what kind of feedback have you been getting?
We previously had a 30 millimeter crude turret variant that we had tested with the Marine Corps at the Nevada Automotive Test Center, and we did an extensive amount of both mobility and C5 testing there. And then we continued for that same vehicle. We took it out to Camp Pendleton and did a lot of swim testing in the ocean for hours on end. Very good feedback from the Marines, and then also a lot of C5 testing with MCTISA. On this particular variant, we did, again, with the government, we did additional testing, a lot of mobility testing, verified the core architecture of the vehicle. We made improvements from that first one. As we are continuing on with the different generations, we get that feedback from the Marines and the users, put that into the vehicle, and then move on and make that better. So this vehicle went through extensive mobility testing. Again, I was at the Nevada Automotive Test Center. And then we went to Camp Pendleton and did surf transition testing right through the surf, and it performed excellent and very safe through that. So
When you're designing a vehicle that has to swim, what are some of the big factors you have to think about there?
Everything, yes. One of the biggest things are corrosion, right? So inherently, as being the vehicle architect for the vehicle, I make sure all of the different subsystem designs, that's one of the very first things that we have to look at is how can you make your system as resistant to corrosion as possible, right? Whether it's the type of bolts you use or the type of fasteners, or making sure that you don't have water pooling in different areas. So corrosion's a big thing. Making sure that it's simple to use, make sure that you have a lightweight vehicle, but buoyant. So we have lots of reserve buoyancy on this vehicle. It's very stable in the water. Even if something happens, you have a stray wave, the vehicle's very stable and it's not gonna have any issues.
Now this is replacing a decades-old vehicle, the light armored vehicle for the reconnaissance battalions, but it's adding a lot of capabilities like we've already talked about. Were you able to learn anything from the operational and employment and use of its predecessor in developing this new variant?
Absolutely. As being the original OEM on the LAV-25, we understand where the customer needs are and how that operational environment is. There's a lot of cross-country mileage, so this vehicle has to be very robust, very resilient, and even though we're adding new capability, you can't lose that inherent robustness of that vehicle. So we're able to understand and get a lot of feedback on how the users today would use the vehicles and make sure that we don't lose that, while making sure we get the feedback and enhance those capabilities so it's easier for them in the future. You can imagine with all of the new technology we have on the vehicle, it can be overwhelming. So we're taking a real hard look at how can we make it simpler for the driver, the VC, the crew in the back, to make sure they all understand how to do their job without overburdening or overtaxing their senses with all of this information, so they can process it quickly, action it, and move on with the next tasks.
When we return, our financial expert is back with details you should know about signing for an auto loan. Welcome back. Are you ready to snag that new Dodge Charger but struggling to get a loan? On this edition of Money Minute, Jeanette Mack from Navy Federal Credit Union explains how a cosigner may be able to help.
Ready to buy your first car but hitting a wall after the application process? You could be getting denied because you're new to credit or you don't have the income to support a long-term loan. In these cases, a cosigner might be the best move. A cosigner is someone who agrees to repay your loan if you can't. They help lenders feel more comfortable lending the money since the cosigner is agreeing to back you if for some reason you can't pay the loan. So instead of only looking at your credit history, lenders consider the cosigner's credit history too. If it's solid, it could boost your chances of approval. A great cosigner could also help you score a lower interest rate, saving you money over time. Your cosigner should be someone you trust, usually a family member, with strong credit who can take on payments if needed. Don't have a cosigner? There are other options. Work on building your credit, save for a larger down payment, or explore different lenders such as credit unions. Getting an auto loan is a big step, but with the right plan and maybe the right cosigner, you'll be on the road to success.
To get more coverage of military and defense topics, hop out of that Hercules and parachute on over to militarytimes.com and defensenews.com. And to stay one step ahead of your AI-powered robot dog, sign up for our Early Bird Brief, compiled each morning bringing you the most recent headlines. And if social media is how you stay up to date, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And for you new recruits, we're on TikTok, so go find us there as well. When we come back, we wrap our coverage from the floor at Modern Day Marine 2025. Welcome back. Autonomous vehicles are making their way into all areas of military operations, and we got up close with one of the biggest. Have a look at Oshkosh Defense's Rogue platform from Modern Day Marine 2025.
I'm standing in front of the Rogue Fires, the remotely operated ground unit for expeditionary fires, which leverages the Oshkosh Joint Light Tactical Vehicle and couples that with autonomous technology from the U.S. Army's Autonomous Ground Resupply and Expedient Leader Follower programs. Here today at this particular show, we're showcasing the Rogue Fires as a logistics platform. As you can see behind me, there's a flat rack with a representative logistics mission. In previous shows, we've showcased the Rogue Fires with ground-based anti-ship missiles, or the Nemesis program, the Naval Marine Corps Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System. And in other cases, we can also do long-range fires or MFOM, the MLRS family of munitions. The Oshkosh JLTV, in this unmanned configuration, you have the benefits of all the JLTV mobility and payload, coupled with some of the autonomous technology. The Marines utilize this unmanned version to do fires missions, or in this particular case, logistics missions. So the JLTV behind me clearly doesn't have a cab. It's an unmanned JLTV. All the benefits of JLTV, the mobility and the payload. This vehicle would be operated in either a teleoperation or remote operation mode, or leader follower. In a remote teleoperation mode, there would be a command element that would be controlling the vehicle from afar. In a leader follower mode, there would be a manned vehicle leading several Rogue Fires on a mission. The back of the vehicle clearly is the payload. At the front of the vehicle, you can see that there's no cab. It is in fact an unmanned vehicle, and there's various sensors like LiDARs, cameras, and radars in front of the vehicle, and all of that data is fused together in order to drive that vehicle safely, autonomously. The JLTV Rogue Fires is payload agnostic. It can carry whatever payload, lethality, or logistics mission that the Marines need. Additionally, this technology has already been proven to be scalable. Recently, at Project Convergent for the U.S. Army, we took the same technology and applied it to a U.S. Army family of medium tactical vehicle, or FMTV, and fired missiles off of that particular vehicle during Project Convergence, thus highlighting the scalability of not only our mobility, our payload, but also some of our autonomous technology. The Marines are currently fielding this system out in the Indo-Pacific. To date, we've built several production representative units that are fielded to the Indo-Pacific right now. Oshkosh is also on contract for low-rate initial production, and those first production vehicles are going down the line at Oshkosh now and will be delivered to the Marine Corps in June of this year.
Well, that's all we have time for in this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.